Donald Trump is pushing back on two news reports about his past. It started with a Washington Post story saying Trump posed as his own spokesman during the early 1990s, something Trump denies. And Sunday, the New York Times front page featured a report saying Trump mistreated some female colleagues and contestants in his Miss USA pageants. Trump spent Monday pushing back on the story with a series of tweets. The New York Times is so dishonest, their hit piece cover story on me yesterday was just blown up by Roanne Brewer, who said it was a lie. And with the coming forward today of the woman central to the failing New York Times hit piece on me, we have exposed the article as a fraud. Roanne Brewer is Trump's former companion who was featured in the Times story but has since hit back at the piece. Catherine Rampell is with me. She's a columnist for the Washington Post. So much to get to, Catherine. These two stories, first of all, the report in your paper about Trump being his own spokesperson, allegedly, and the Times story.
You say allegedly, but he actually copped to it.
He did cop to it.
Like in the 90s.
Okay.
It's now that he says that it wasn't him.
Yes, now he's denying. The
Yes.
latest is that he's denied it.
Correct.
The Times story also on his treatment of women. What do you make of the effect of those stories on voters? Do they sway voters?
I don't think so. I think that those who were already predisposed to dislike Trump, to be repulsed by his comments about women and other demographic groups, this confirms their pre-existing beliefs. Those who were predisposed to think that there was a media conspiracy trying to make Trump out to be a pig and a bigot and whatever other negative things, this reinforces their beliefs as well.
What about your assessment on the way the campaign and Mr. Trump himself have handled these stories? There's a report, Brian Stelter says, that Donald Trump himself called the control room at CNN as their morning show was going on to alert them that this Fox interview with Roanne Brewer-Lane was actually happening. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I have multiple reactions to that. One is that he is still today acting as his own spokesman, whether or not he admits he was doing the same thing before under a pseudonym. He's still very much in control of very many aspects of his campaign, the kinds of things that any other candidate, if they chose to take those actions, and that's a big if, would delegate to some sort of subordinate. It's a bit strange that he's still this involved with every single detail, calling up control rooms. He's a master of driving the news cycle, and now we're getting a little bit of the guts of how that process works.
Yeah, he absolutely knows how to interact with the media. All right, so let's talk about this. John Kasich's name came up as one person who'd been approached to run as a third-party candidate against Trump. Here's what he had to say about that on Monday.
I've had a phone call with somebody that wanted me to run, consider running as third-party candidate.
Are you considering running?
No, I'm not going to do that. No,
Why?
Well, I think that I gave it my best where I am. And I just think running third-party, it doesn't feel right. I think it's not constructive. A third-party candidacy would be viewed as kind of a silly thing, and I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, I just don't think it would be the right thing to do.
All right, so Mark Cuban's name also was floated, but he said that he wouldn't be able to pull off a third-party run, he didn't think. Do you think that for the architects, essentially, of this third-party movement are trying to make a statement here, or is it really about getting a candidate to run?
I think both. I think it's about getting a candidate to run. I think that it's not necessarily about getting a candidate who will win. That seems to be a very unlikely outcome. What could potentially happen is that this gives hardcore Republicans who dislike Trump a way to vote their conscience without, to not vote for Trump without voting for Hillary. So I think that this is an alternate measure, and that will sort of add an asterisk to Hillary's win if she does indeed win, because it'll be portrayed as she doesn't have a mandate here. She doesn't have a mandate from the American people. She won because so-and-so, whoever this mysterious third-party candidate is, if he or she does materialize, stole votes away from Donald Trump. So I think it's a nice way to try to grab the election away from him without necessarily reaching the loftier goal of actually getting that candidate in office.
All right, Catherine Rampell, thank you so much.
Thank you.